Okay, so we are still in 3.2 and we're doing number 15, and it's a review of these exponents. This is super tiny writing. So it's x to the 1/3 times x to the 1/6 times x to the 1/4. And they want you to use the properties of exponents to multiply these. So if you remember, now I'm going to take a break from this problem and come up here and come up with another problem. If you remember, like, I don't know, 4 squared times 4 to the 3rd, right? If you remember how to do this problem using the properties of exponents, so 4 squared times 4 cubed. Can you imagine that right here? Because it's gonna come up. It's just thinking. Okay. So go back to the definition. It's like 4 times 4, and then times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4, right? Using the definition of what 4 squared is, that's just 4 times 4, right? Using the definition of what 4 cubed is, well, that's just 4 times 4 times 4, right? So if I collect all those 4s, you're like, oh, Ms. Johnson, that's just 4 to the 5th. And I say, okay, well, how can you get from here to here? And you guys say, oh, Ms. Johnson, you could just add those exponents. And yeah, that's exactly what you're doing. When you're counting, you're like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's adding. So that's 4 to the 5th. So you can generically say, if you remember this property back in, I don't know, 8th grade, maybe, that when the bases are the same, you just add the exponent. So that's exactly what I'm going to do here, except for you're like, oh, it's fractions. And it doesn't, it's fine. It's just fractions. And so I see my common denominator is going to be a 12. So as I write them over here, I'm going to rewrite them with denominators of 12. So that's what, 4/12 times x to the 2/12 times x to the 3/12. Right? And then I would just add all those together and just check my math. Times 4 times 4 times 2 times 2 times 3 times 3. Okay. And there it goes. Okay. So then I'm just going to add them all together, and my final answer becomes x to the 9/12, which is also x to the 3/4, right? And so when you're doing this, oops, where'd it go? When you're doing this and you're just wondering, like, hey, am I doing this right? Right? Yeah, you're doing this right. And let's see, I simplified it. So my final answer is not showing up yet, but it's x to the 3/4, just because I can simplify that 9/12. So there's your answer. Just using that property of adding exponents when your bases are the same and you're multiplying. Very good, very good.